Awesome. So our focus for today is how you can create a garden in a small space in your home, even when you don't have plenty of land, so that you can produce food that can feed your family, and that will bring down the costs of feeding your family and reduce your food budget, but make sure that you have what you need to take care of your family. We are not going to be talking about cooking today. We're not going to be talking about recipes today. Our focus is on growing your own food to feed your family. So having said all of that, I'm going to jump in straight away and introduce our facilitator. Mrs. Beni Zakka is a principal lecturer at the Federal Polytechnic in Bauchi, Nigeria, and she holds a Bachelor of Technology in Computer Science from the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, and has earned a Master of Science in Computer Science from the University of the Witwatersrand, Johannesburg in South Africa. And she specializes in the application of machine learning to real-world problems, leveraging her expertise to inspire and guide the next generation of computer scientists. Yes, she's a computer scientist, but a very, very resilient one, right? And beyond her academic pursuits, Beni is deeply committed to community engagement and humanitarian work, and she has volunteered with for programs such as Girls Achieve Power in South Africa, sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And Beni has also served as a supervisor for the Child Health and Mortality Prevention Surveillance Project in Bauchi State, where her dedication earned her recognition as the second best supervisor. Beni's professional journey reflects a diverse range of experiences, from her early career as a tutor at the Equa Computer Institute, later as a maintenance technician at Nitel, to her role as an instructional teacher assistant during her National Youth Service Corps. Beni's passion for education and mentorship has driven her to teach and mentor students at various levels. She has played integral roles in shaping the academic journey of students, including tutoring first-year computer science and applied mathematics students at the University of the Witwatersrand. Beni is actively involved in technology programs aimed at empowering women and young girls, and she has been a speaker at events such as Women Tech Makers and the SheTechs project in Bauchi, where she shares her insights and experiences to encourage more women to pursue careers in technology. In addition to her professional and community work, Beni serves as a marriage counselor and mentor to young and intending couples, providing guidance and support in their relationships. Outside of her professional endeavors, Beni finds joy in culinary experimentation, gardening, and caring for animals. Her love for cooking extends to creating cost-effective, healthy meal options for her family, reflecting her commitment to holistic well-being in both her personal engagement and marriage counseling and professional life. So her multifaceted contributions to academia, mentorship, community engagement, and marriage counseling exemplify her dedication to making a positive impact in the world, one student, one couple, and one community at a time. So, Auntie Beni, welcome. You have the stage. Oh, looks like her network kicked her out again. So just give me a second. Let me call her and to be sure that she's back in the meeting. Okay, I believe she will join us very, very soon. Okay. Her network is not doing so well, but I believe she'll be back soon. Okay. So, like I was saying, while we're waiting for her to rejoin, okay, she's here. Awesome. So, Auntie Beni, you have the floor. Please take it away. You are muted. Can you unmute?
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening,
Can
ma.
you, can you all hear me?
Yes,
Oh,
we can
yes,
hear
ma.
you.
All right, do my
Ma,
voice.
you see you loud and clear.
All right, thank you. To all the women in the house, happy International Women's Day.
Oh, thank you.
It's a wonderful day to host a program like this by a woman.
That's
Yeah,
true.
so I celebrate all the women. I want to appreciate the organizer of this program. She said we've been friends. We've not been friends. She's my mentor and my big auntie. I can never be friends with her. I'm privileged to share this platform with her, the CEO and founder of Nutri Integrated Concepts. Good evening, ma.
Good evening, Auntie Berry.
Um, I'm privileged to share a little from my experience. I never knew it was being taken note of. I was just doing my own thing in my little garden at the back of the house. But I'm very glad and excited to share the little experience I've gathered over the years. Our topic is how to nourish our families through kitchen gardening, utilizing what's in our homes. And I don't know, Auntie, could you help share the slide so that we can
Okay.
go through the outline
Okay.
together? Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Can you see it?
As others
She
can see,
froze.
I think I'm fine.
Okay.
Yes, we can see. I can see.
Yeah.
Can we see it? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so for the outline, we'll be discussing what's in my garden. That's the animal products, green vegetables, fruits, herbs, and other plants. We'll also be discussing what means I use to cultivate these plants and then raise the animals as well. What containers I used, how do I get the feed and manure, how do I manage my time, and what are the threats associated with this. And then also, we'll be discussing about the harvest surplus. That is, what do you do when you have excess? And then some little tips, and there will be room for questions. So without wasting time, we'll just move to the next slide. Right now, um, we just cleared the garden. We want to replant some more vegetables, but I would like to quickly share a video, just like an overview of what I have, what I had, or what I still do have. So if you are with me, Auntie, you could stop sharing while I share.
Yes, I've stopped sharing.
All right, ma. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. So that's just a summary of what I have in my garden. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so we'll move to the next slide. So what are the animal products? I have layers, just 4 of them, because I'm not keeping them for business, but just for home consumption. So I have layers, I have broilers, I have noilers, I keep catfish, and I keep snails. The snails is a wonderful one. They usually come to the garden to eat up my water leaf and spinach. So I decided to give them a home and food and watch them grow. So that's for the animal products. Then for green vegetables, I do grow ugu, water leaf, moringa, and spinach. The one in northern Nigeria. Then the next one, I have fruits. For now, we have pawpaw, we have banana. I want to believe at the beginning of that video, you saw the banana has started fruiting, and then we have a baby tangerine that is growing up, hoping to harvest soon. I also have herbs like scent leaf, sage, oregano, rosemary. I used to have lavender and thyme, but they dried up. I'm still researching on how to grow them better. Other plants include tomatoes and sweet potatoes. All right, so by what means do I cultivate all these vegetables? So in this session, I'll guide you through a journey exploring the diverse methods I employ to grow and nurture my garden, from to the strategies I employ for resource management, threat protection. Each aspect plays a vital role in my gardening pursuits. Join the intricacies of container gardening, considering cost implication, manage space effectively, acquire resources, dedicate time, optimize yield, manage diseases, and implement security measures. Very important. So together, let's embark on this journey as we move to the next slide. So for the plants, I make use of broken buckets. I actually don't like waste. Everything has a purpose in the house. So I make use of broken buckets or bowls. I also make use of cement sacks, or any other sack. I make use of them. It was a cement sack I used to grow the potatoes. Then I also make use of old tires. My husband would change the car tires, and the tires were littering all around. Now, one of the reasons why I make use of tires, because the soil in my neighborhood is not so rich. A rich soil into the tires and grow water leaf and oregano mostly. Anything that doesn't need a deep root, I grow them in tires. So if you have tires around the house littering your compound, you can just move them to one corner, get a good earth, and then here you start planting your plants inside. So I make use of vertical gardening as well. Um, I think there was a picture later where we get to see vertical gardening, where you can put your tires in layers to maximize space for those of us that don't have much space. And then for the animals, for the fish, I started with a storage container I used to have in the house, and I didn't need it. So it was just lying fallow in the house. So I decided to make use of it to keep the fish. I started with 50, able to acquire bigger fish tank that I now use to grow the fish. And then for the chickens, I had leftover zincs and wood around. Of course, I bought new ones as well. So I was able to construct a 3-story building for the chickens. So I have the layers up on the topmost floor, and then I have the broilers midway, and then I also keep noilers. They are the ones downstairs. Now the aim is that the droppings, the some of the food drops down to the last layer of the cage. So the noilers, I don't really make so much effort to feed them because they get to eat from that. So these are the containers I use. This slide, the next slide, is just a picture of some of those containers. You can see the tire, you can see the sacks. I grew some potatoes in the sack. And then, of course, I also demarcate a little part of the house. That's where I planted the ugu actually. There are more containers in the next slide. The black container I use I started the fish in the black container before moving to the white one by the right hand side. The one in the middle is the cage for the chickens. As you can see, it's not so fancy, but it's very effective. So these are some of the containers I make use of in gardening and then rearing of these animals. I don't know if I'm being too fast, but I would like to move to the next slide. So feed and manure. The food for the chickens and fish is mostly purchased. In the early stage, the fish, they don't eat much. They don't really eat much, but subsequently, as they begin to grow, they eat. The eating increases. So we buy feed for the chickens and the fish, and then and for the chickens, we only buy for the broilers and the noilers. As I explained earlier, the noilers feed from the food that drops from both cages upstairs. So we don't really spend much on that. Additionally, I also use corn chaff. In the north in Nigeria, we call it dusa, and then chaff from soybeans. The ones that are the chaff from making awara. I make use of it too. If I have, I pound it and feed the chickens. It's very good for them. So basically, around the house, anything they eat, leftover rice and all that, I feed them, especially the noilers. So the snails, they feed on kitchen waste mostly. Spinach stem, water leaf stem, watermelon, the back of watermelon, the back of banana, yam peels. The snails feed on them. They are very economic animals. They eat a lot. They eat anything, mostly anything, not anything, but mostly anything, especially greens. And then how do I get my manure? Because I keep chickens, so I get manure from the chicken droppings. I also do collect compost from kitchen waste. I used to have two bins in my kitchen. I call one the organic bin. Anything that is perishable, I don't throw it away in the main bin. I keep it aside in an organic bin and I bury it in the soil. And then once that place is enriched, I plant something or I pick the soil from there and I use it on plants. And then also the water from the fish. In fact, that was what started the fish rearing. I heard that water from fish is a good source of manure for plants. And because I loved gardening, I started keeping fish. So we change the fish water, we use it on the plants because it's a very good source of nutrients for the plants. I do not use chemicals at all. I do not use fertilizer and I do not use pesticides. Okay, are we together?
Yes, ma'am.
All
Yes, we
right.
are
So
with you.
another food and pesticide that is very good and we have around the house is ash. Ash from wood or ash from charcoal. I don't throw it away. We sprinkle it around the soil. It's very good. Ash is rich in phosphorus and is also rich in nitrogen. And these are things that are needed by plants. In fact, from my little research, ash is made up of the fertilizer they call NPK. So that chemical constituent, you can use it on plants. I have a neighbor next door that burns his dirt, and then every farming season he packs the ash and spreads it on his farm. So I learned that from him, and I don't throw away ash in the house. I keep it for the garden. And then also, there was a time that pests were disturbing my spinach, and I was advised to sprinkle the green vegetables with ash. So it also serves as a pesticide. it keeps pests away. So ash is both food and medicine. So if you have ash around, you have food for your soil and you also have medicine for your plants. Yeah, so you may be wondering, when do I find time for all this? Because somebody may say, hey, I'm too busy. I don't have time for all this. Keep snail, keep fish, keep chicken. So how do I do it? So for the animals, and a lot is incorporated in the morning chores for them to feed the animal. There's always someone to feed the animals. And animals comprises of dog, though it's not for eating. The dog will later talk about it. But they feed the dogs in the morning. They feed the chickens. It's actually not so difficult to feed since they are not in large number. The layers are just 4. I've kept 10 broilers before, but right now they are just 5. I'm just keeping them for Easter. And the noilers are just 4 too. Feeding fish is very easy, very, very easy. It's not tedious. In fact, fish is one of the easiest things to grow. It's very easy to feed them. You just pour the feed, and then changing of fish water. We did it in such a way that there's a hose connected to the fish tank. So once we want to change the water, that's the dirty water, and then we use the hose to feed the plants with that water. And then we open clean water, also use hose. So you find out that it's something that children can do. They find it fun, changing the water and owning clean water for the fish. So it's really not tedious. And then for the garden, I believe in the saying that says, a stitch in time saves 9. So I actually don't wait for the garden to be very bushy or to become outgrown before I start trimming it. Instead, I use some of my free evening time. I just walk into the garden and begin to pull out weed and trim any dead stem that is unnecessarily growing on the plants. And in doing that, in the evening time, I tell you, you'll be enjoying the fresh, clean that is generated by the plants. That oxygen, even the hospital do not have that one. It's so clean because it's from green plants. So in the evening time when I'm free, I walk in the garden and pick out some of this weed from the garden. So it's really doesn't really take much time, I tell you. You may not even spend up to 30 minutes of your day doing that. And when we had tomato, right now we don't have, but when we had tomato, we also stroll in the evening to pick the ones that are getting ripe. Okay, so I'll move to the next slide, which is threats. So you know that one of the biggest threats of gardening is pests, and then thieves also. They pose significant threats to plants and animals. While they may be inevitable, there are steps and measures that we can take to at least. So first and foremost, I would like to say that I believe in the protection of God. And so as a family, we do pray for the well-being of our plants and animals. Funny enough, we do commit them in our daily prayers. Not every day, but we do pray about it. I remember a day I was praying and I had a leading to pray for the animals. And I was like, hey, it's getting out of hand. But I tell you, we commit them to the hands of God. And then secondly, and the little I learned is that a well-nourished soil, it's not so prone to pest attack. So, they say prevention is better than cure. So instead of waiting until pests invest your plants before you take measures, the best way is to ensure that your soil is very rich before you begin planting. So add ash, add my keep wetting the place before you start planting. And you'll find out that you wouldn't have much to struggle with. And then there's something I didn't add in the slide. There are some plants that help to prevent pests. One of such plants is scent leaf. Another one is oregano. Another one is marigold. these plants keep pests away. So if you plant them within your plants, it will also help a lot. That is why in the ugu, among the ugu plants I grew, I had scent leaf, and then also around the other plants I had oregano. So these are all measures to prevent pests from attacking the plants. The same for the animals too. A well-fed animal is most likely going to be disease-free. So feeding them well, invest in giving them nutrients and multivites once in a while. And then another measure I take is I keep dogs. I have two dogs. I believe you saw them at the end of the video. One is a lion, and the other one we call him a lamb. They don't meet eyeball to eyeball, but at least their presence helps to deter uncertain threats from the garden. All right. So harvest surplus. What do you do? How do you maximize it? Because sometimes you really have a lot and you don't know what to do. So these are some of the measures I take. When I have surplus, I give so that it will always come back some way. It says give and it will come back to you. Good measures, pressed down, shaken together, running over. So sometimes when I surplus to leave, I share with others. I share with my neighbors. I share with friends. And then I also sell. Yes, I sell. I sell excess egg. I have 4 broilers, and all things being equal, they give me 4 eggs in a day. So if you had to do a little mathematics in a month, I should be having like 4 crates of eggs because a crate of egg is 30. So that means each bird is able to give me a crate of egg in a month. And honestly, sometimes it's too much. Though I do appreciate the eggs, it has helped us to cut down seriously on beef. It has helped us cut down on beef. Beef is so expensive now. So when we cook our rice, our pasta, when we're making yam, we use egg. But sometimes it's still too much. So I do neighborhood. I just tell them eggs are usually sold for 120 or 130 naira. So I sell mine for 100 naira. So I may sell four. I may sell five. And I have regular customers. So last month, I think we sold 15. We're able to make 1.5, and that helped to augment the amount we spend on feeding the birds. And that 15 we sold is nothing compared to, no, sorry, I sold half crate 3 times. That's not 15, that's 45. It's nothing compared to the eggs we still consumed last month. So if you minus about 120 from 45, you agree with me that we still ate a lot of eggs. Then another way I manage is that I air dry fresh green vegetables like my ugu. I air dry it at room temperature. I dry it inside the house for days that I'm not able to have fresh ugu. I make use of the dried one. I also do dry scent leaf. For the fish, when we harvested, the first set we kept was just 50 for the house. We're excited, so we decided to keep more. We bought a bigger tank and kept 200. So by the time they grew, we sold the bigger ones, and then the tiny ones, we turned them into smoked fish. I think we had about 45 tiny ones, so we converted them to smoked fish. And you know how delicious smoked fish taste in soup and jollof rice with
Mm.
beans.
Yeah.
We use that one at home.
Mm.
All right. I would like to pause here. I don't know if we're still following. I don't know if I'm being too fast.
No, we're following.
All
You
right.
are following
Okay.
quite all right. You're following quite all right.
All right. So basically, I've almost come to the end of my presentation. I would just like to offer some few advices for people that want to venture into growing their own vegetables at home, raising their own layers. Yeah, and by the way, for the layers, I didn't have the grace to raise them from day old. So I bought point of lay. There are these layers they call points of lay. So somebody goes through the process of grooming them, and then once they are at the point of laying, I buy them. So I bought them at the point of laying, and I bought them for 3,000. I think 3,000 or 3,500. I'm not sure now. So the moment I got them, they started laying. So if you don't want to go through the stress of raising the broilers, I mean the layers yourself, you can look out for whoever sells point of lay and just buy them at that point. You enjoy them, and they are not messy like the broilers. They are quite neater. All right. So my advice to anyone that wants to start: be open-minded. Be open-minded and be very humble and teachable. I've learned from a lot of people. There was a day we were sitting down with a security man, and he was telling me how he grew sweet potato in sack. And I told him, I said, in this one, you are my prof, so teach me. Invited him to the house, and we grew the first set of sweet potatoes together. So be open minded, be humble, and everyone. There's always more to learn. Even if you read agric in the university, there's always more to learn from another person. And then I also say, don't hesitate to ask questions. Seeking knowledge is a sign of wisdom. So always ask questions. Ask questions. When I go to a house and I see them grow anything, I want to ask questions. I want to find out how to go about it. So ask questions. Never get tired of asking questions. Another point I wrote here is never say never. Stay open to new opportunities and possibilities. Don't say, me, I cannot keep snails. I actually wouldn't have kept snails on my own, but because they were destroying my water leaf and spinach, and I was like, come on, Benny, God has given you free protein. So I just gathered them. I say, you know what? Let's sign an agreement. I will give you as much as I can for you. Please don't just destroy my water leaf and spinach. And so I was able to keep them in one place, and I kept to my word. I always gave them food. They grew, and we learned how to process snails and make nice peppered snail sauce to go with your Sunday white rice. All right, then another word of advice I would like to give is be a researcher, be curious, and learn to explore new discoveries, and be a researcher. That's just the summary. Always on the internet. In fact, when we don't know what to do, the first set of fish we dried, we didn't know how to go about it. We just went to YouTube, sat down with my son. I told him, watch this video. At the end of the day, we had our dried fish. So be open to research. We have the internet. Google is there. YouTube is there. There are people that are doing far, far wonderfully well, even much more than what I'm doing. So if you go to the internet, you'll be able to learn more. And if you struggle with anything, most times, if you research, you'll find solution. Like I remember there was a time um, some pests were affecting my greens. Apart from the ash, I also learned that the gel of aloe vera is a perfect pesticide. And I have aloe vera in the house, a lot of aloe vera. So I just extracted the gel, put it inside water, and put it in a spray bottle, and I sprayed it on the plant. Now the idea behind it, aloe vera is very bitter. So those pests, those tiny, tiny insects are not able to feast on the vegetables again. And aloe vera is not harmful. All you need to do is just wash your vegetable very well before you start eating it. All right, I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Now I'm open to questions.
Thank
Thank
you
you, Ma.
so much, Auntie Benny, for this wonderful
Thank
presentation.
you very much. Thank you.
Very,
Thanks very
very
much,
insightful.
ma.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. I've picked a lot of, information. I've learned so much from the presentation, and I can see a lot of people clapping. Thank you so much. Yeah. So the floor is open for questions. For us to make it orderly, can you just raise up your hand? Okay, so I can see that Hajarat has raised up her hand. Austin Igowede. So let's start with Hajarat. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. Hajarat. Okay, Austin, you can unmute while
Okay,
Hajarat is
hello,
getting.
good evening.
Oh, okay, hello, good evening.
Thank you. My name is Abdulmajid. I'm using my WhatsApp number. That's why you see
Okay,
Hajama. Thank you very
okay.
much for this opportunity and happy Women's Day. Uh,
Thank you. Thank you so
my
much.
Thank
my
you.
own question is that is there any other because based on our own environment here, is there any other maybe website or any other link that you can share for us so that it will be a kind of takeaway? Thank you very much for us.
Okay.
Okay, Auntie Benny, feel free.
Okay. Personally, I don't have a website. Personally, I don't have a website, but if you can chat me up, I can give you some few links, some YouTube channels I watch to help. Yeah, and then if God helps me, I may have to start my own channel or podcast, anything, just to help people out there. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
so
thank you very much.
thank you very much. I'm dropping her number. Mrs. Beni Zakka gave me permission to share her WhatsApp number with you. I'm dropping it in the chat right now, so you can pick her number if you wanna. If you have any question you want to ask her, or if you have anything at all you want to discuss with her concerning gardening, please feel free. But please, I want to beg you, don't go and ask her to give you produce from her garden.
Noted, thanks. Noted, thank you.
No, I'm not talking to you, sir. I'm just talking generally.
Uh,
Please don't ask
I
her.
know since she has taught us how to catch the fish.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you. So, Austin, we can take your question now.
All right. Good evening, ma, and thank you very much for the opportunity. Can
Good
you hear me,
evening.
please?
Thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
I,
Yes.
I don't even know. I'm very grateful. I can't remember how I stumbled on this invitation, but I'm a big fan of anything agro. So when I just saw it, I said, I'm not missing this for anything, and it has really been insightful. So what I want to ask is about the raising of chickens and fish, for example. Though I
Yes.
have a space where I use as a garden, though it's away from my home, but I just want to make an arrangement. Hopefully, if I'm able to have both garden and where I stay in one place in the nearest future. The chicken, do you have a like an estimate how much it costs to feed those uh, four layers in a month, say in a month?
Okay. Yes. In a month.
And again, sorry,
Mm,
again, secondly,
okay.
is this a separate feed? I understand the Noilers feed from the leftovers. Okay, that reminds me
Mm.
another question. Did you get the Noilers as day old chicks or also at a certain grown stage? Then I want to ask in third question, the layers and the broilers, do they eat the same feed or you buy separate feed for them? Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. So let me start with the last question. Layers eat layers mash, and broilers eat starter or finisher, depending on the stage of growth they are. So they don't eat the same feed. The first set of broilers I kept was Christmas. I kept 10 for Christmas. I fed them with their feed, and when they got to like 4 weeks, I started feeding them with chaff. And then towards the end, I went back to the chicken feed because I kept them for a longer time. So I didn't want to invest too much on their feed. The feed can be expensive sometimes. And then the feeding of the layers, four of them, I usually buy half bag of their feed. It ranges between 10 to 13,000 per bag. Now, this half bag doesn't finish before the end of the month, but I always like to have extra. With our Nigerian salaries, sometimes it may not come in at the time expected. So I always like to have excess feed. So they don't eat up to half bag, but they definitely eat almost up to half bag. So my estimate is that if I buy a bag, they may be able to eat that bag in 3 months. So that's about 13,000 naira in 3 months. So
That's
you can, yeah,
very
you
bad.
can do the mathematics. And then for the
Yes.
noilers, actually, I looked for a brooded noiler. I couldn't get one. So a friend gifted me one noiler in December as a gift. So I decided to keep the noiler, and I found out that she started laying for me. I was excited. So I went to look for brooded noilers. So one of the noilers was a gift, and then the other three I bought them as brooded noilers. Actually, don't have the grace, as I said from the beginning, to brood these birds. Though I love to keep them, so I buy the brooded ones mostly. Thank you.
All right. So the other question is okay. Okay, I think you've answered everything. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
answer the
Yes,
three.
yes.
Yes,
Thanks a
ma'am.
lot.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the answers, for the questions and the answers. Alamin, are you still here? Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Al Amin, are you still here?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Good evening, ma. Happy
Good evening.
International Women's Day.
Thank you very much.
My question go this way, like that of the ugu. I don't know
Yes,
the
ma'am.
location that is growing up ugu. Can it grow like somewhere in Gombe here? And what are the like techniques in growing it?
Okay. All right. So for the ugu, um, soil matters. And as I said, the soil in my neighborhood is not so rich. So I had to buy loamy soil. I had to buy very rich loamy soil. I don't know if you were at the beginning when played a video. There's a place I demarcated using curbs. That's where I grew the ugu. So the soil inside that place was mostly brought in. So I've seen people that have grown ugu inside sack. So I understand the nature of the soil you have in Gombe a little bit. I think it's more of a sandy soil. So you can decide to grow your ugu in a container, maybe a paint bucket, or you can use a sack, or you can demarcate a place using curbs, and then you get a good loamy soil, fill in and plant your ugu. Then for the planting technique, yes, ugu is very sensitive. It has its own rules and regulations. So one day I was discussing with someone, and he just mentioned that his grandmother um, plants, she has ugu plantation and she sells it. I just grabbed him. I said, for saying that, oh yeah, oh, we are going to plant my ugu together. So sometimes if you can get someone that knows how to plant it, because there's a way when you buy the seed, there's this part that shoots out. That's the part you put down because that's the part that will take root. So there's a technique in planting it. But even if you don't know how, you could ask the sellers that, please, I really don't know how to plant this thing. Can you guide me? Then last year, my ugu produced bud. It produced seed. So I had the privilege of planting my own ugu seed from my garden. So I use pure water sachets. For those of us in Nigeria, I use pure water sachets. I just punctured holes under it, and then I poured in very rich loamy soil, and I planted the seeds into the pure water sachets. and they grew out. So it was from there we're able to transplant. In fact, most of them, I didn't plant them back in my garden actually. I gave them out. I gave others. I told them, plant in your own garden so that we can keep spreading the ugu plants around. So that's another way. If you are not sure of your soil, you can plant it to transplant, then it will take root better. I don't know if I answer your question. Fine.
Thank you, ma. I've gotten
Welcome.
Yeah, so Eli, Javan, I can see you, but we have a question in the chat. So Auntie Benny, let me read that for you and then see
Okay,
how
ma'am.
you address it. So there are three questions. The first one is, how do we get the seed for some of these plants like potatoes, ugu, and so on and so forth?
Okay. Okay, so for potatoes, it doesn't need seed, it just needs a stem. Once you're able to plug, don't steal, but once you ask and plug potato stem from any farm, you can come and replant it in your own garden. That's what I also did. I just removed stem from another farm and replanted. That's all. Then for the ugu, Igbo women in the market, some of them do sell. Even if they don't sell, they'll direct you to where you can get the ugu seed. The pawpaw, we ate one very sweet pawpaw, so we decided to plant the seed. So that's how I was able to get pawpaw in my house. Scent leaf just grew in the area. Then spinach, also you can get it from the market. I'm trying to remember which other plants. I bought banana. I bought banana. I bought banana from gardeners, and then I plugged oregano from somebody's garden, and it also grows like potato. You just need the stem. You know the way water leaf also grows. Yeah, another funny thing with water leaf, I bought 100 naira water leaf from the market. And all the pictures you see of my water leaf is from 100 naira water leaf. I was able to, almost every month, I get a basin full of water leaf. So water leaf also grows from stem. Oregano grows from stem. Potato grows from stem. Ugu, you can get it from the Igbo women in the market. I didn't plant tomato, but I harvested a lot of tomato in my house from water. As you pour the water around, before we knew it, tomato was growing everywhere. At a point, it was even annoying. I was removing it, and I got tired of removing, so I let them be, and they grew, and we started harvesting tomato. So that's just how I was able to get some of the plants.
Okay, thank you very much. The second question is, does shade or shadow affect the growth of them? And then let me take the third question too. When you were doing fishing at the early stage, how did you change the water? Is the water smelly? Because some of us stay in public compounds so as not to become nuisance to others.
Yes. Okay. Um. So for the plants need sunlight. Plant needs sunlight. So there are some I keep in the shade, like my rosemary and thyme. I don't know what happened. The thyme didn't make it, didn't survive. But I keep them in the shade. But the shade is not so shady. Sun still meets them, but not so intense like that. But most of them they are just in the sun. Then for the fish water, we mostly don't allow the water to get dirty before changing it, but sometimes it's inevitable when we get so busy. But after 2 to 3 days, it's advisable you change train the plants. We wait when it's time to change the fish water. We use the water to water the plants and then put in clean water.
So
Thank
in
you.
that small tank, how did you change the water?
Yes, in the small tank, it was hectic because we have to fetch it out
Okay.
manually. Yes, but when we got the bigger tank, we made provision for outlets. But you can also make provision for outlets in those small containers. It's just that the containers, I already had them in the house, so I didn't want to make holes in them. But you can make holes, raise it a bit, so that once you release it, once you open the tap, the water flows out.
Okay. Thank you
Yes, you
very,
can even
very
you can do it in such a way that the water flows into a bucket. So you
much.
lift the bucket, and if you don't want it to litter on the floor, if we stay, especially if you stay in a compound with other people, they may not like it.
Okay. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Javan, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, good evening, ma.
Good
Good
evening.
evening,
How are
sir.
you doing?
Mommy Ore and Mommy Kim. Good evening. Happy
Good evening.
International Women's Day.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank
you.
you so much.
Welcome, ma. All right, ma. I want to take you back small regarding this
Okay.
Ogu.
All right.
My dad particularly loves leafy vegetables, and
Mm,
no matter how, he ensures that we keep this at home. So we have a small garden, and Ogu is one of his favorites. But of recent, I discovered anytime any member of the family cut the leaves from the main stem,
mm,
eventually it starts dying off. I don't
yes.
know why. Sometimes you just discover it's like fungus start growing on it. It start wilting away, and well, I try to apply my knowledge of microbiology. Probably it's microorganism, but I don't have a clear picture what is causing the wilting, and sometimes you see fungus growing on it. So I want to ask, is there a better way of harvesting the leaves apart from using our hands to pluck it? Probably if there's a way so that we can minimize the rate of infection, probably from our hands to the main plant. Thank you
Yes.
very much, ma'am.
All right. Ugu is very sensitive, very, very sensitive. Um, so for Ugu plants, one of the rules I learned about Ugu is that you don't allow every and anybody to harvest the leaves. You make it a consistent thing. Like for me, it's my husband that harvests. So anybody that asks me for some Ugu, I'll just say, please, my husband is not around. And when we need to use it, or I want to give someone. Because I was told that Ugu is that sensitive. It doesn't like too many people, plugging it. That's one. Two, there's a technique to harvest Ugu. Even when you are doing that, there's a technique, and it's advisable you use knife. Don't just plug it with your hand. It's advisable you use knife. I remember I had to watch like almost 4 or 5 videos just to learn how to harvest Ugu so that I don't harvest it the wrong way. But I still couldn't get it from those videos. So, or rather, I was being very careful. So I asked someone to come around the house who knew how to handle Ugu very well, to practically. So if you have anyone around, that maybe somebody from the eastern part of Nigeria, they grow Ugu a lot. You can spend the money and give the person the transport to just come around and guide you on how to harvest this plant properly. Because if you don't cut the stem correctly, you end up having the whole entire plant drying up. That's what we experienced. So I invited someone to the house, and then he through how to harvest it properly. In fact, I remember it was my husband and I that had to stay for him to teach us, and then we're able to do that. Then thirdly, sometimes when the soil is losing nutrients, it can also affect the plants. Remember, we talked about the soil. If it's very rich, the plants will not be prone to pests and diseases. So, like for me this year, the person that helped me plant my ugu, when he came around, we agreed that we're going to retill the soil, add manure, and plant fresh ugu because we noticed that the soil has lost some nutrients. And so we want to just like, do an overhauling of the garden this year. It has served us for like 2 years stretch, giving us bountiful harvest. So we want to just rework on it. So maybe it could also be the reason why your ugu is not doing well. It could be the soil. So think about it, till the soil, add some manure and all that. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much, ma.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Auntie Benny, I was wondering if you could do a video of you harvesting it. That may be helpful to quite a number of people. Hello?
Hello, ma.
Yes.
Yes, ma.
So
Okay, I didn't get you, ma.
okay, I was saying that if you could do a video of you and your husband harvesting, or maybe him harvesting it, so that it could help people. I don't know if that might be helpful to some people.
Okay, we'll work on that. But for now, the ugu is not yielding much.
Okay.
So we'll wait when the yield is much. We'll do something about it.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, ma. Yes, ma.
That's totally fine. Javan, you were saying something else.
Yes, ma. I wanted to ask for suggestions. I live here in Jalingo, Taraba State Capital. Especially during the dry season. This period, temperatures can be high as 47, sometimes 49 degrees. And most of these vegetables, probably those that don't tolerate high temperature, like thyme and Irish potato, it hardly grows, particularly in Jalingo. So I don't know, is there any suggestion like this greenhouse technology that an improvisation that someone can do that some of these vegetables or some of these rare um yes, the vegetables that don't love high temperature. Is there any technology or a system where someone can improvise that you can be able to grow these things naturally at home? Thank you, ma.
Okay, I haven't gone into that part, but one thing, I went to a garden, a house that has, I call that house a mini garden of Eden. So one thing I noticed garden in that house is that the woman plants a lot of climbers like grapes, and then she plants other plants under them. That's what I noticed. I haven't tried that myself. And then also another thing I would advise in a very hot region like where we are in northern Nigeria, one technique I learned is to water my plants in the evening towards night time. That's the best. Instead of watering them in the morning, you water them from 9, 10 p.m. in the night. They are able to absorb much water and it keeps them going for a while.
Okay. So one possible solution is to plant climbing plants that can provide some sort of shade for the
True.
others,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Thank you so very, very much for all these insightful answers. Do we have any other questions in the house? Any other person? Okay. So please, I would like you all to just type one takeaway from this meeting into the chat so that we will know that, okay, and this is what you took away from here. And then this your takeaway, would like you to also take it back with you and see if it is something that you can implement. And if you are able to implement it, I would be glad to receive an email saying, oh, thank you, we were able to learn this and we were able to implement it, and this is our garden. Probably send me a picture and this is how it is helping my family. That's all we ask of you. If you can do that, we would really, really appreciate it. So please just go into the chats and just type in one takeaway from this meeting that you took away while we are trying to round up. I don't know if any other person has a question. All right. So in the absence of any other questions, I want to thank Auntie Beni, Mrs. Beni Zakka. I keep calling her Auntie Beni because that's what I've called her all these years. I want to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us, sharing your time. I know it took you quite a lot of time and effort to prepare these slides, get the pictures, and put the video and everything together. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing with us. And for every one of you that joined in, we really want to thank you so much for joining this meeting and sharing your questions with us, and just being there to absorb the information that was given. Thank you so much for everything. And I also want to thank you all for the what's it called, the takeaways that you're putting in the chats. These are very, very interesting takeaways. Thank you so much. All right, in the absence of any other thing, the meeting is over. I've placed Mrs. Beni Zakka's phone number in the chats. You can copy that and reach out to her on WhatsApp if you have any other questions. And if you don't have a question, you are free to leave. And if you have anything to say, please feel free to say it before you leave. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Auntie Benny. We're very grateful. Okay, someone is asking, when is the next meeting? Auntie Benny, I think you should start your podcast or something. It will help us. It will help
God will help me,
everybody.
Auntie.
Amen.
God will
Amen.
help me. Yes,
Amen. Yeah. Amen. So please feel free to leave when you wish. We're done. And then I just wanted to mention that I will be uploading this video on YouTube, and I will send you the link in case you still want to go over it. And so I think that's basically it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ma.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. Yeah. Okay, so bye-bye, everyone. Okay, so I will stop presenting. Manage recording. Stop recording.